farms. They provide the food that sustains us and our families. 150 years ago, half of Americans lived and worked on a farm. 100 years ago, it was 1 in 3. Today, it's less than 1 in 50. And in Delaware, less than 1 in 100. Yet much of Delaware is still farmland, and agriculture remains a major contributor to the state's economy. And like their forebears, Delaware farmers and their families continue to raise the produce, crops, and broilers that feed us, our country, and the world.
It's like all those days you and I used to cultivate.
So I gather farming is unpredictable.
Farming is, well, it's unpredictable on the day-to-day and the minute-to-minute, but every season it's the same. Just don't know always exactly what we're going to do. This was a project I'd hoped to have done 2-3 months ago, and it just hadn't happened. When we went up and brought this thing home, it was down in a basement at the boiler room at the Chrysler plant. I was raised to be quite frugal, and sometimes it's a real fine line between being frugal and wasting time and spending money because you're wasting time. But I hate to throw away a good piece of equipment that still works if I can modify it to do something that I want it to do. And I've been blessed with the ability and the wisdom to know how to do these kind of things. I grew up with my dad in the shop. We had a machinery dealership here at Baxter Farms until about 2002. Sold Agco equipment, White Farm equipment before that, and Minneapolis Moline. That's what my grandfather started with in the late 50s, was Minneapolis Moline tractors. So I do enjoy shop time. Shop time's my therapy. If I spend too many hours in the office, it's nice to go in the shop and work on something
Practical.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So to be a farmer, you got to be versatile.
Or you got to be rich. So, yeah, I'm versatile.
To be a good farmer is extraordinarily difficult, and I say this as somebody who's not a farmer but who is deeply impressed by this. Good farming, of course, takes ingenuity, takes innovation, takes patience, takes acceptance of new technologies, and be that in seed and watering, in mechanical equipment.
So we're laying out the rows for our watermelon rows where we're going to lay the plastic. So I'm just using a deep gripper to mark the rows and sort of bust up the hard pan underneath. So we're using the GPS to lay the field out like we want it in the spacing and have nice straight lines. That's something that's changed in the last 5 or 6 years. We heavily rely on GPS. All the fields are mapped. Go out, pick this field that I want to, that I'm in, and then you put in what tool you're using. So that's going to change your spacing. So everything is pretty much ready to go, lined up, programmed in there. So it takes a lot of stress off of you that way. If I'm setting plants or laying plastic or shield spraying, I can spend the majority of the time looking out the back window at the implement that I'm pulling instead of looking out the front window trying to drive a straight line. Plastic machine or transplanters, I've got people on the back, so I've got to make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing, and they're safe, instead of concentrating looking out the front trying to make sure that you're straight or on the row. So it's very nice.
People who are successful at farming have to be masters at all of these things. In addition to which, of course, they have to be good at running a business. This takes real sophistication and nuance to be successful in American agriculture in the 21st century, and that's certainly true in Delaware.
I would say that there's not really such a thing as a dumbass farmer. I use that loosely at times, but there's a great amount of consideration into doing what we're doing. Today's cost of equipment, this drill,
Right.
if it was new, it was over $100,000. This tractor is priced at close to $500,000.
Really?
So,
I'm
yep,
sitting in a $500,000 vehicle.
yep. So, and I know it's,
So you guys have to lease this stuff? I mean, how do you afford it? How do you afford all this stuff?
well, years of saving, and between that and the bank, if I do buy this tractor, I'm trying it out. It's considered a demo, but if I do, I'm actually renting it, I should say, but I'm looking to purchase one, and it will apply the rent to a purchase price, but it's between me and John Deere,
Right.
and they offer a pretty good financing rate. They've got a pretty good deal, but it takes a great deal of equity still, even to finance something like that.
Yeah.
You can rack up a lot of money in equipment. There's comfort into the tractor.
Uh-huh.
That's one of the another nice creature features. We've got air conditioning and heated
There you go.
conditioning and heated seats, and
Yeah?
massaging.
Massaging. You got a massager seat.
It'll massage the bottom and the back, both.
That's not bad.
So,
I feel like I'm roughing it over here on this other seat.
I'm sorry.
The area of Delaware played an important role in its colonial past. Not only was there ample rainfall and good soil, but largely it's its geographical location, its proximity to the growing settlements of Philadelphia, Baltimore, protected access to waterways through the Delaware Bay and to the Delaware River play an important role in Delaware being able to ship its produce out, as well as to bring supplies in to those who lived here.
Historically, Delaware farmers focused their efforts on growing wheat and flour for domestic and global markets. 250 years later, the Clay family, working their land in Middletown, continues this tradition.
We were spinach growers for probably 25 years, and we've grown lima beans, sweet corn, peas.
But with the huge growth of Delmarva's poultry industry came the opportunity for the family to raise the crops needed for chicken feed.
We're mainly corn, soybeans, wheat, and barley. We're mainly just the grain crops. And where we are situated with the chicken companies, Purdue, Mount Air, they want our grain. They need our grain. And that's what makes this whole thing viable for us. We can't grow enough grain to feed the chickens on Delmarva.
The poultry industry in Delaware has grown significantly since the 1920s, and today is the absolute backbone of Delaware's agricultural economy. Not only in the production of birds themselves, which number in the hundreds of millions of birds, but in addition to that, of course, you have the grains that are feeding these animals, the people who are involved in processing factories, and so there's a spillover beyond the farm itself into large segments of Delaware and its economy.
Over 250 million chickens are now raised and processed annually on Delmarva. Their diet is mostly corn and soybeans. Meeting this demand for feed has changed the scale of many local farm operations.
What we're doing right now, you kind of got to be bigger, I think, to make a living on it. You got to be flexible as a farmer because things change all the time. You know, we're not the same operation we were 30 years ago, and I would guess in the next 20 or 30 years, it's not going to be the same operation here either.
While many farm families now manage large corn and soybean operations, others raise birds for the poultry processing companies. Some farmers are now growing birds for specialty consumer markets.
2006, I got my first flock of chickens, and I grew conventional birds for probably about almost 9 years. In 2017, we knew that there was going to be this change in the use of antibiotics. And I thought, you know, if we're going to have to grow chickens without antibiotics, then why not move myself up in the value chain, because it's going to have more risk associated. That was my perception. And I thought, you know, that at least that way, however it turns out, at least I'm getting a little bit more money for growing those chickens. And in 2015, I made the transition to organic. And really what that meant is that everything had to be completely removed from the house, the litter material, everything had to be clean. And then when I got birds back, we had to provide them pasture area, outdoor access. So on this farm here, we have 39,000 square feet of inside floor space for them, which I have to also provide that equally or more outside. When you go from being a conventional grower to an organic grower, you can't let them get something, right? Once they've got it, you're very limited to what you can do. So by looking at their droppings and things like that, that really allows you to be much more proactive. But it's also about, you know, what they're doing at the hatchery, you know, how clean the hatchery is, the sanitation they're doing, how the eggs are cared for. So it's a combination effort. It's just not here on the farm, it's also what's happening off the farm. It was an economic decision, a little bit of a decision out of fear maybe, but I will say it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Decisions about what to raise or grow are part of a farmer's life and play out based on time, care, and Mother Nature. With each new season, it's deciding not only when to plant, but what seed to sow.
All right, so look at this. So the grains are a little bit darker. They're the ones that have been in the hopper, and they've got a lubricant and a special seed treatment on them that helps to wake up the microbiology in the soil to help feed the plant. But if you look at so this one, this is the corn we've been planting, and we've switched hybrids to another one, and it's flat. It really has nothing to do with how the corn grows or anything. It's just coincidentally that it is flat and not round. So we're going to have to change the settings on the planter to make sure we can singulate the seed properly. Now we switched hybrids of corn because we want to see how this one does in these conditions of this field. It actually, in theory, has a shorter growing season, so we'll be able to harvest this one earlier, or the moisture content won't be nearly as high. So it's one of those things we just kind of have to figure out from year to year which ones work better, and we diversify the types of corn that we grow in hopes that we'll have many of them do well and very few of them do poorly.
Careful planting decisions in the field minimize risks with crop yields, but farmers must also make measured business decisions if they want to keep farming.
Now, one thing we have to discern as farmers, as business people, is that everyone's trying to sell us something for the sake of efficiency. Right. But it's up to us to try to figure out whether it's whether it's as efficient as what they say it is, or whether it's one of those things that it's just a salesman trying to make a sale.
I don't know, so being a farmer is being a businessman too.
That's kind of the first hat you got to wear, yes.
Really? First hat as a businessman?
In my opinion, yes. Profitability is made in the office. Now, sometimes this is my office, but You've noticed I haven't had the radio on this whole time. I'm just out here thinking. Sometimes it gets me in trouble.
Smart business decisions, along with good farming practices, keep farms in families for generations, even as the surrounding land has been developed.
The Mitchell family came to Hockessin in 1796 and bought our farm here, and our claim to fame on that was George Washington was the President of the United States when that happened. So we're proud of that fact. And it's been a dairy farm the majority of the time. My father and grandfather sold their dairy herd in 1961.
The reason for that was the old barn, which is gone completely now, was in bad shape. Where we were shipping our milk, they were taking milk cans. It was one of the last dairies that did that. And they were going to switch over to bulk tanks. So all those things together, we gave up the dairy, but kept farming the ground. Janet gave Jim a heifer calf for Christmas one year. So when she got to milking age, they bought some more, started selling a little milk, but just a small herd hardly paid for itself.
We have housing developments all around us now, and so we can't really expand with more land and more cows. So we just felt like maybe there was a customer base here where we could do something on a retail basis, and everybody loves ice cream.
She has peppermint and I have like pumpkin.
Pumpkin?
It's what's allowed us to remain in the dairy business, honestly, because we're marketing our milk differently than we were before. And it's worked out better for us.
With family farms come family member chores. When the Mitchells needed a new milking parlor, it was a chance to ease the prior generation's workload.
Up until then, his father, who was at the time in his late 80s, was helping with milking every day, twice a day, in the parlor. And we looked at, do we put in another parlor to then have to milk cows twice a day, or do we look at the robotic milkers, which in this country was just kind of entering the market, whereas in Canada and over in Europe, they had been using robotic milkers for years. Then we got excited into what this would mean opportunity-wise for taking some pressure off of Jim and his father having to be here twice a day to milk, and also that being the first dairy in the state, we would potentially start doing tours. And so when we built the barn, we also built a viewing area. When we first started, we're in the middle of suburbia, and we thought, how's this going to work? But it's been actually a blessing, because our customer base is right here, and they enjoy seeing the open space and being able to see the animals.
While many Delaware farms grow grain for the poultry industry, other family farms produce fresh produce for wholesale markets. Delaware's temperate climate, well-drained soil, and proximity to East Coast urban centers drew many farm families from neighboring states, including the Papins.
The Papins started farming here in 1952, Dover, Delaware. Previously, they were in Somerset, New Jersey, from 1922 to 1952. George Papin and Howard Papin found this lovely property here outside of Dover and kept expanding on it, buying neighboring farms to where it is today. Roughly, this home farm is about 2,500 acres. We have a fifth generation working with us today. We grow about 1,100 acres of sweet corn per year. So our first day of harvest was July 5th this year. To date, we roughly have harvested 80,000 crates of corn, sweet corn. We grow about 600 acres of green beans. We're right around 36,000 crates at this moment. We ship our sweet corn and green beans all across the country, mostly the East Coast, up and down the East Coast. My job is to line up sales for the produce. You need to be in tune with your crops and know how much volume you're going to have whether it be light or heavy, and you try to come to a middle agreement as far as pricing with your customers, a fair agreement. You don't want to overcharge anybody, and you don't want to undersell your product as well. You want to be here for years to come.
The Cartanzas were another farm family drawn to Delaware. They left New Jersey, settled near Dover in 1946, and began raising tomatoes. Philip Cartanza joined his relatives shortly thereafter.
My grandfather came down, Philip, he came down in 1952. He was 20 years old. He came down, he farmed across the street with them. He wanted to do something a little different than what they were doing. So in 1957, he bought this farm at what we call our home farm, and the rest is history. He quit growing tomatoes and focused more and more on the potatoes. We mainly grow white superiors. That's an old variety, been around forever. It's a bulletproof variety, really takes abuse. It can handle the heat and handle the stress of the elements.
While ideal for growing most crops, much of Delaware's soil has one challenging characteristic.
We have a very shallow and sandy soil type that only retains a certain amount of moisture. So we are, in all honesty, about 3 days away from drought during peak season, just because of our low storage capacity in that sandy soil. Most of our big vegetable crops and grain crops can use up to 2 inches a week, which we rarely see that spaced out in a nice timely fashion. So supplemental irrigation in a crop in order to provide all the water that that crop can really use.
In the 40s and 50s, Delaware farmers began irrigating their fields. Early systems were primitive, inefficient, and labor-intensive to operate. Eventually, the center pivot system was developed.
We have a riser pipe coming up from either a well or pond-supplied irrigation pump to a central pivot point, and the irrigation system can travel around in a circle, getting back to its starting point, eliminating all the hand labor, any moving of hoses, and that type of thing. That's something that really didn't take off here until the 70s, really got ramping up in the 80s, and by the 90s, if it was feasible to put an irrigation system on a piece of property due to the shape, most of the big acres got those systems put in.
We do have a few dryland pieces, but out of the 2,500 acres that we till, I'd say probably about 2,000 acres of it is irrigated. So a lot of it. And that's mainly because of the potatoes. With our crop rotation, we have to be able to move the potatoes around, and they have to be underwater. So any field that we can get an irrigation on, we do, strictly for the potatoes.
Unlike grain crops, potatoes are harvested based on customer demand.
You know, corn, soybeans, or wheat, we could put that crop in a bin, you know, and wait, sell it later or sell it that day, or, you know, it seems like there's always a market for that kind of stuff. But potatoes, we just can't come out here and dig 10, 15 acres a day and get rid of all those potatoes.
Harvesting happens as the orders come in, which also means balancing the packing plant schedule and recruiting the 20 workers needed.
I mean, it is a hard job, so to get people to come do it, and it's a seasonal job, so we only, you know, are here for 2 months out of the year.
Farmers now recruit workers through the government's seasonal work visa program, known as H-2A. While it successfully monitors immigrant laborers, it has changed the workplace dynamic.
This is a little different because we're working with different people, so we're not going to see the same group of people next year. Before that, a lot of people were coming up out of Florida, and they would help us out, and it was the same crew that my great-grandfather had. We were with them for a long, long time, so they were almost like family to us.
Further south at Lakeside Farms in Laurel, some watermelons are now ripe. Their harvest is staged as well, with experienced seasonal workers called cutters picking which fruit is ready for market. The ripe melons are gathered and brought to a packing house.
We pack 4 sizes right now, not included seeded. So we'll pack a 60 count, which is smallest watermelons, and then a 45, which is the most typical that we sell, and then a 36, and then we're actually packing a jumbo right now. So, yep, and each one of those is how many melons are in the bin.
No matter the number inside, each bin weighs 700 pounds. The bins are then shipped up and down the entire East Coast, including Florida.
So at the same time that we're growing, you've got states like Indiana and Michigan that are also growing right now. So there are several growing regions, but all of us are about the most northern and the last stop for the main season. The whole watermelon market is based around holidays. And so yeah, Labor Day is the last big one. Most of the time you've got a few left over after that, and you just hope that there's still some sales left.
Back in 1890, over 5 million peach trees flourished in Delaware, and the peach blossom was named the state flower. Yet after a major blight in the early 1900s, many farmers chose to grow other crops. The Bennett family has been in Delaware since the Civil War and farmed through those years. In 1980, one descendant chose to grow the fruit once again on the modest family plot.
I had been away for 10 years at college and worked for NOAA for 5 years and came back to the farm to see if I could make a living on a small acreage. And we planted the first peach trees in 1983 with the idea to have a pick-your-own operation. We opened up pick-your-own in 1987 and 1988, and then 1989 and 90, we had no crop at all. So I thought, well, maybe that's not such a good idea. But anyway, we persevered, and my two sons, Hale and Henry, have entered the business.
There are probably other things that I could do to make more money, easier lifestyle, more time off, things like that. But once it gets in your DNA, it's hard to get it out. A lot of growers out there are big wholesale guys. They pick their crop, they pack it, they ship it off to distant grocery stores and markets and things, and they never get to see the consumer that is at the end of the supply chain that actually gets to enjoy what they're growing. We get to see kids out there biting into peaches with juice running down their face, and that's honestly pretty much the biggest reason why I do what I do.
In addition to drawing customers with U-Pick activities at the farm, the Bennetts sell their fruit at farmers markets, including the one held seasonally in Lewis.
I've been doing this market for 19 years, since I was 16 years old. We do about 12 producer-only farmers markets days a week, and they're very important to us, and they make up a significant portion of our revenue, and allow us to continue our agricultural legacy and keep farming and keep feeding our community.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Well, the main thing right now is sweet corn, watermelon, tomatoes is a big mover, pickles, cucumbers, things like that. And we've been coming for 20 seasons, and I love the people. In the wintertime, I miss the people more than anything. And the secret is remembering their names, especially their first names. And I am blessed to be able to do that. So a lot of things I can't do, but memory I can remember.
Farmers markets also provide an opportunity for relatively new farmers to sell their produce, such as Taisha Hyacinth and her husband, first-generation Americans from the Caribbean.
When we first moved here in Delaware, we were looking for produce that we were used to seeing back home. And when we came here, we loved the atmosphere, we loved the farms, but we didn't realize that moving here would put us in a food insecurity situation. So we started to grow some vegetables at home. And as years progressed, we realized that there were more people from the Caribbean moving here and others from the African diaspora. So some of our neighbors and even some of our friends from church started to ask us to purchase some of our local grown vegetables, which then progressed into us being inquisitive to see how can we go about turning our garden into a farm.
Now enrolled in the Small Farms program at Delaware State University, Taisha and her husband farm a small plot at the university's Outreach and Research Center.
Even at school, I didn't even realize that within that education program, I was already a farmer. I was already generating income. We wanted to start small, but we didn't know that starting at the historic Lewis Farmers Market wasn't really a small venture. It was actually a great one. I think that we positioned ourselves to be at the most profitable market in the state, the most diverse clientele, and clientele that's actually open to trying new things. Interesting.
I said brown zucchini.
And well-traveled clientele. These are people that have visited other parts of the world, that have partaked in other types of cuisine and appreciate different culinary aspects of the crops that can be grown here.
Perhaps the largest retail farm festival takes place annually in September at Pfeiffer Orchards. The Pfeiffer family began farming in Delaware more than 100 years ago.
My great-granddad, Charles, he moved here to Wyoming, Delaware, and purchased 3 parcels of land, totaling about 300 acres. It was a different era, but a lot of the principles that Charles would have had back then, we still practice today, with diversity in our crops and crop rotation and just respecting the land and trying to be good stewards through our generation to get it to the next.
Primarily a wholesale grower of sweet corn, pumpkins, and other crops, the Pfeiffer family also operates a retail business and promotes agritourism with the festival on farm grounds.
I think folks are being educated while they're being entertained at the same time without realizing it, and that's kind of what agritourism is all about. But also it's a working farm. This is not a theme park. The phrase that we hear a lot is, this is our farm. This is our farm where we come. It's like they feel like it's part of them, partly theirs. And I think that comes from not that long ago, 100 plus years ago, everyone would have a connection to a farm of some sort.
With the changing seasons comes the lima bean harvest. For the Carpenter family, it means multiple family members harvesting with multiple viners.
These are small, little succulent green lima beans. So they are picked fresh, they go on a truck, get cleaned and processed, flash frozen, and then they will be distributed to Bells, Tennessee for further processing.
Now, how long has your family been involved in farming?
It might be close to 75 years.
Is it the same piece of ground and everything too?
Thankfully, we've been able to grow a little bit larger than the initial purchase back in the 50s. But the ground that we tilled 75 years ago, we're still tilling today.
Right. So you went to school for engineering?
I did. Yeah, I went to school in Texas, small college, Laterna University, and I graduated with Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I spent a year at a company in Kansas working as a machine design engineer, and the knowledge there of hydraulic schematics, electrical schematics has proved very useful here on the farm.
Now, what made you come back to the farm?
My wife and daughter are my priority, and I could spend more time with them if I come here. So they're my mission field, so that's what I'm here to do.
Right.
Farming to me is a calling. There are plenty of easier ways to make the same amount of money, plenty of easier ways to make more money.
In the loop. Are we, everybody I'm assuming is going down here with the other viners?
There's a lot of benefits to this job that other jobs don't have.
Meanwhile, in another field outside Middletown, the corn is dry enough for the Clay family to harvest.
We're getting about 300 bushels per acre.
In underneath the water we are. The whole field is averaging probably around 270, 260. But underneath the pivot, where it's irrigated, it's above 300. So it's doing very good. The truck holds about 1,000 bushels. So I'll do 3 full dumps on this truck, and I hold about 360, 350. But weight-wise, we got to be around like 80 to 82,000 pounds. We're taking it back to our grain bins and our dryer and drying it down and storing it. And some of it's going to the mill because we don't have enough storage to hold all of our corn that we grow. So it's like a balancing act right now. Right. Back at the grain bins, we're getting towards the end, close to the end of the season.
At the farm, the corn is offloaded and kernels tested for their moisture content. The corn must be dry enough, whether it's to be immediately sold or moved into the storage bins for later sale.
Yeah, right now it's coming in about 18.5%, and we're trying to get it down about 15.5%. Today we're on just over 8,000 bushel so far. Hopefully we'll get 11, 12,000 bushel through. Dryer uses propane. Right now we're running about 700 bushels an hour through there. We'll run it into the bin system. We can hold about 200,000 bushel. With the bins, you're able to store it to help you sell it at a higher price. Everyone used to have to go to a commercial mill as they were coming out of the field and didn't have a bin system. So then obviously you've got a lot of downtime, a lot of time sitting in the truck waiting to unload. And so this system also, besides just the price point, it helps the business run more efficiently. I went to an agricultural school in upstate New York, SUNY Cobleskill, and then I was in the landscape retail industry for a while and came back to the family farm, and this is year number 6 now. I always wanted to be in the agricultural industry, and I've kind of honed it in as I've gotten older.
With the final soybean harvest, the growing season is drawing to a close. Yet while farm crops, technology, and acreage might have changed over the years, it's the same families, through generations, that continue to work Delaware's soil.
Are most of the farms in Delaware family farms?
I think all farms in Delaware are family farms. They might refer to us as corporate farms, but the only reason we're corporate farms is because we are, as families, we have incorporated our business as a viable official business in the eyes of the state of Delaware. And so, yeah, all of these farms that you see, whether it's big or small or anything in between, they're all family farms. And I think it's in the DNA of the state of Delaware.
Assuring the future of Delaware's family farms and Delaware farming in general begins with recognizing the value of agriculture in the state. Delaware's 2,158 farms consistently generate more revenue per farm than farms in 47 other states. They also preserve the state's look and character, with 42% of its land in farms. Yet, while Delaware's farming legacy is strong, there are also challenges.
There are, of course, a number of forces that work against farmers that make it difficult to farm anywhere in the country. And certainly Delaware is not immune from that. Challenges in climate change, challenges in the international arena of trade, and of course the opportunities to be able to sell farms at a high price for residential development.
Fortunately, for those who own farms, there is the state-sponsored Delaware Ag Lands Preservation Program. Since 1995, this program has preserved over 160,000 acres, or 31% of the state's land and farms. There is also Delaware's Young Farmer Loan Program, which offers 30-year, no-interest loans to help young farmers purchase farmland. Finally, There are the academic opportunities offered by the University of Delaware, Delaware State University, Delaware Tech, and the support services available through UD's Extension Service and the USDA. However, while there are these opportunities, if Delaware's agricultural future is to be secure, there must also be new farmers, and not just those from established farm families.
I was working at a dog kennel, and it was on a farm, and I just thought the farm was so beautiful, so I was like, why don't I find a farm to work on? So I found this farm, local to me. I'm usually here every morning, every evening, feeding the cows, keeping the barn clean, and I've loved it ever since.
I just get a lot of zeal when I see my clients tell me that, you know, I took a chance on what you grew and it made me feel better. I took a chance on something new and I'm ready for more. I think that drives me, that pushes me, that gives me the ambition that I need to continue to do this work.
And for established Delaware farmers, there must be a continued commitment to their family's way of life.
Generations before us have done what they've done. To pass it on to the next generation is quite the responsibility, quite the obligation that we hold dear. And sometimes that causes some undue stress.
Right.
But we do it proud. We do it proud.
Oh, the farmer is the man who feeds us all. Feeds us all, feeds us all. Oh, the farmer is the man who feeds us all. With the price of seeds so high, it's a wonder he gets by. The farmer is the man who feeds us all. It wouldn't put us to the test if the farmer took a rest. Then we'll know that the farmer feeds us all. Feeds us all, feeds us all. Though the farmer is a man who feeds us all. Feeds us all, feeds us all. Though the farmer is a man who feeds us all. Oh, the farmer is a man